Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. I am DJ Angel Baby, one half of the AM Click on 92Q. And I am here thanks to Church of the Redeemed of the Lord. They're having a vaccination registration tomorrow. And today we're going to talk about getting educated about COVID-19, about the vaccinations. And I have a special guest. Of course, you can see him. Dr. Mitchell is on with me tonight. And Dr. Mitchell, I want you to go ahead and give us a little introduction of yourself and background.
Angel, thanks so much. It's lovely to be here with you and your viewers. I can't thank you enough, or the bishop, or the church for lending your support to this really important cause. So my name is Clifford Mitchell. I'm a doctor at the Maryland Department of Health, and I direct what's called the Environmental Health Bureau, which is the bureau that's responsible for food protection, for the laws and regulations related to food safety here in the state, as well as programs related to things like youth camp safety for summer camps for kids, and other programs. My background's in, as I said, I'm a doctor. I'm actually trained in what's called occupational and environmental medicine. So working at the health department since 2006, I've had the opportunity to work on many, many public health issues, but certainly nothing ever like COVID-19. And before that, I was at the School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins, where I also did environmental medicine. So I have a passion for helping people and working on issues related to better environments, whether they're indoor environments for kids with asthma or outdoor environments, and keeping the air and the water clean.
Okay.
But pretty much all of us have been involved at the health department in COVID-19 because it's something that the world has not seen since 1918.
Yes, sir. And of course, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of some facts and non-facts circulating around social media. So we're going to get into some things today, and especially how it affects children and the ones that can't be vaccinated. The Church of the Redeemed of the Lord, they're giving a vaccination registration tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can come out, get vaccinated. They have $25 gift certificates to give away, gift cards. They're giving away back to school supplies while the supplies last tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The information is at the top. Dr. Mitchell, let's get right into our conversation about COVID-19. Of course, the vaccine has been out quite some time now, and a lot of people still have hesitancy about getting it. Specifically, I've been reading reports about how many children have been affected by COVID-19, especially with school starting.
Yep.
What do you say to parents who have some type of hesitancy about vaccinating their young children?
Well, so first thing to remember is, and it's a really great question. We get these questions a lot from parents. So let me just talk a little bit about the vaccines, what they are, what they do, how they work, what they aren't, what they don't do. And I'm happy to answer questions from you and your viewers as the night goes on through this half hour. So the first thing is, in the United States, there are 3 vaccines available. One's called the Moderna vaccine. That's the company that makes it. One's called Pfizer, and the other is called Johnson & Johnson, sometimes just Janssen, which is sort of like Johnson & Johnson, and it's the other company that makes the vaccines. So 2 of these vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, are a 2-dose vaccine.
Okay.
And let me explain the way they work, because people, I think, sort of look at these and think, what is this mRNA vaccine? What is that all about? So when you look at the virus, everybody's probably seen that picture of the virus, that it looks like a basketball with little spikes in it.
Green, yes, the little green emoji.
A little emoji with little spikes on it.
Yeah.
So that virus is that's the virus, and the little spikes on it are a little protein, a little piece of the virus. It's not the whole virus, but it's a little piece of the virus. And that little spike, what's called a spike protein, that sort of sticks up, if you can see my
Yeah.
finger, sticks up out of the ball. The cells of your body recognize, and that spike protein helps that virus get into your cells, and it's part of the process by which COVID-19 infects somebody.
Okay.
So the way any cell makes a protein, whether it's your cells or somebody else's cells,
Mm-hmm.
it's a process where you take DNA, your genetic material, and then from that DNA, your cell makes a little message called message RNA or messenger RNA, and then messenger RNA then gets read because it's like an instruction book.
Okay.
You can think of it as your DNA is the encyclopedia of you. It's like everything that you are, but you're made up of all of these millions of proteins. And so the message RNA is like a single page out of that instruction book for a very specific protein. So the way the messenger RNA works is we have read the genetic code of that virus, and that little protein, that little spike protein, has an instruction page with it. That little instruction page is a piece of messenger RNA. That's that instruction page. And what happens in the vaccine, the messenger RNA vaccine, is we take that little page of instructions for that little messenger RNA for that spike protein piece only, not the whole virus, just that little spike. We inject it. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Busy man. I understand.
Yeah, we inject it, and when it gets injected in the body, your cell takes up that message, and it makes basically a little piece of that virus called that spike protein. It's just that little piece. It's not the whole virus. It's just that little spike protein, and just enough of it so your body's own immune system says, wait a minute, that's not right. That's not supposed to be here. It's never seen that before if you've never been infected before. But what it does is, like any other foreign protein, it sees that foreign little piece of spike protein from that little message. It reads it, and it says, if I ever see that again, I'm going to attack it with everything I've got.
Right.
That's how the vaccine works. So the messenger RNA primes your immune system to be able to work against the whole virus when you see the whole virus. The challenge for the Johnson & Johnson or the Johnson & Johnson vaccine works a little bit more like ordinary vaccines, but none of these vaccines is the actual virus. They're all pieces of the virus that make your immune system work.
Okay.
What we know about this vaccine is that it works, that it's safe, that it's effective, and that the people who are getting sick and ending up in the hospital now and who are ending up dying now, unfortunately, are people who have not been vaccinated. And we know a bunch of things about how COVID works now, but one of the important things we know is that vaccine works. It works against the virus that was first here when we started getting COVID back in March and April and May of last year, and it works against the Delta variant.
Okay. Okay, and now we have heard of other variants existing. But let's talk about specifically our kids, well, parents who have kids that are in school, especially for the ones that are 12 and under. Do you foresee them making something or something coming up about for younger children? Because a lot of parents have concerns.
Sure. So that's a really great question. So as you indicate, the vaccines are now authorized for kids who are 12 and older. So any child who's 12 and older can get one of the vaccines, either the Pfizer or the Moderna. However, for under 12, I'm very confident that we will see a vaccine for those children at some point in the near future. I can't tell you when,
Right.
But all of us recognize that we really want to vaccinate those kids. So the companies that made these vaccines are well on their way in terms of developing the data needed for the Food and Drug Administration and the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, to approve and recommend a vaccine for younger children.
Okay, and a big shout out to the Church of the Redeemed of the Lord. They're having a vaccination registration tomorrow. If you're just tuning in, tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., it'll be at 43, let me get my notes, 4321 Old York Road. That's in Baltimore. Come through 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Get registered, to get vaccinated, get educated, and you can also pick up some prizes. They'll have back to school prizes, and they'll also have $25 gift certificates, gift cards while they last. So come out, come early, come with your questions if need be. But we hopefully can answer some of them here. If you have one, you can jump in chat, give us a question. Now, as far as people and I always wonder about how people make the decision between which vaccination to get.
Yeah,
That one, and if you're not a doctor, if you're not a scientist, sometimes you don't
sure,
understand what you're
sure.
reading and what the differences is. Can you give us a little bit more insight on how to choose?
Yeah. Well, what I can say is that all of these vaccines work.
Yeah.
So, I know that there's, people had questions about, well, wait a minute, if it takes 2 doses for 2 of these and
Yeah.
only 1 dose for one, does that mean that the 1 dose one is more powerful? Or does it mean you get more protection from the 2 dose one? And how do I
Right.
know?
Right.
Um, the answer is they all work. And um, when they were developed not against the Delta variant, because the Delta variant hadn't really come into the picture at all.
Yeah.
So all of them have been shown to work against the Delta variant. Um, and there may be some small differences between them in terms of how well they work against one variant versus another, but they all work. And they all work against both the Delta variant and the original virus. I expect they're going to work against other viruses as well.
Okay.
Um, and I'm sure we'll talk about boosters at some point, but the bottom line is they all work. And whichever one you get, early on, there were supplies that were limited. And so people really, they were waiting for one or waiting for another. But now that we've given so many millions of doses across the country and across the world, what we can say is that they all work.
Yeah. And of course, we're having a conversation about the importance of getting vaccinated, the awareness and answering questions if you have them. To the people that are not vaccinated yet, what would you say that could, I don't want to say convince them, but to ease their pain about wondering whether or not to get vaccinated in the first place? You know what I mean? Like some people just,
Sure,
you know,
sure. So let me just say this, and if you're somebody who is still wondering, do I need this vaccine? Is there something wrong with this vaccine because it's not got full approval? Is there something in this vaccine that we don't know about? I can just say to you, first of all, I understand this is new, and I understand there are questions, and I really do. And our goal here tonight, and it has continued to be, to answer your questions as best we can, so you can make the best decision for you and your family. But here's what I will say: we know that the best way of protecting yourself, protecting your parents, your children, your brothers and sisters, your neighbors, is to get vaccinated. What we know is that almost everybody in the hospital at this point, and almost essentially everybody who is dying at this point, is not vaccinated. And we know that it's possible to get infected if you have been vaccinated. We know that there are these so-called breakthrough cases where people who've been vaccinated have gotten COVID, but they get a mild case. It feels like a cold. It can feel worse than that, but they don't end up in the hospital and they don't end up dying. And while we know that no vaccine is 100% effective, the flu vaccine isn't 100% effective, the mumps, measles, and rubella vaccine is not 100% effective, The way we've stopped these diseases and the way we're going to beat COVID is by everybody getting vaccinated. Because until that happens, it's everybody who's at risk. Because the more people who aren't vaccinated, the more COVID keeps circulating and keeps changing. And if it keeps changing, we run the risk for everybody that we're going to get a worse form of COVID in the future. So I understand the questions. I had questions myself often about these kinds of things. It's good to ask those questions, but it's not too late to get vaccinated. And if you do get vaccinated, you are protecting yourself, you're protecting your loved ones, you're protecting your family, you're protecting your fellow parishioners, and you're protecting your community.
Okay. And big shout out to the Church of the Redeemed of the Lord. They're having a registration tomorrow. If you're just tuning in, 11 to 1 p.m. is at 4321 Old York Road. They'll have back to school giveaways, $25 gift cards while they last. So come out at 4321 Old York Road tomorrow, where the pastor, senior pastor and founder is Dr. Jerome Stokes Sr. They're also having a lot of events throughout in the community throughout the week. We'll get into what the church is doing later on, but I wanted to ask you about the thought process of people who actually got COVID right prior to getting a vaccination. Would you say, because I've read this on social media, I've seen people have questions about this, would you say that someone that had COVID got vaccinated is more protected than someone who's had the vaccine? Because I hear a lot of people
Oh, I
talking
see.
about.
Right, right. Which one gives you greater protection? You know what? There are many questions about things like that. So, does your own immune system, if you've beaten COVID once, does that mean that you're even more protected than getting the vaccine? The answer is
Yes.
probably not. The answer is that we know that if you've had COVID and you get the vaccine, you can actually have a really big bump in your antibodies. And that can be that's probably a good thing. But even so, people who have been infected have been reinfected. So
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
infected is not a guarantee that you're not going to get COVID again. And so we're encouraging people, even if they've been infected before, it's important to get the vaccine.
Because I'm thinking the mental thought process would be, well, if I beat it one time, then why get vaccinated if I've already beat COVID, you know?
Yeah,
So,
sure, sure. But I will say that, people getting COVID once or twice, we know that COVID has both those sort of short-term effects of giving you pneumonia, giving you a lot of other symptoms. But the other thing that we're learning about COVID is this so-called long haul COVID of people who got confusion, they have trouble thinking,
yeah.
they've got other kinds of problems. And they get those from the COVID infection, not from the vaccine. So even if you've been infected once, it doesn't mean that you're safe from COVID, and it does not mean that your COVID won't necessarily be worse the second time around.
Okay, that's good insight because people do have that. I've seen that circulating around social media as well. Now, really quick, I want to run down again tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Church of the Redeemed of the Lord is having a COVID vaccination registration. Come by. They have back to school supplies. They'll be giving away $25 gift cards while they last. So come fast, come early. Get there and get the information. Get all you need to know about vaccinations at 4321 Old York Road, and that's in Baltimore. If you're just tuning in, come out, get vaccinated. Also, the Church of the Redeemed of the Lord will be having different events throughout the week. Tuesdays, they have small group deep dives at 7 p.m. Wednesdays, they do midweek worship experiences at 7 p.m. via live stream, Facebook, and YouTube. They also have in-person worshiping services beginning at 10 a.m. Registration is required. If you need more details, you can go to crlministries.com. But more information will be scrolling down the bottom if you tune in late and miss my little announcement. But Dr. Mitchell, I think you've answered a lot of questions so far. But to the person watching right now and they are still on the fence and maybe they haven't gotten what they needed from you tonight. Is there another way to get some more information either from you or other sources that you may be able to quote that let them know?
Sure. We have our whole GoVax campaign, and if you go to GoVax on our website, there is on the coronavirus page. There's a lot of information. We've got frequently asked questions. We've got we can help you find a vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, I will say vaccine supplies now are plentiful. We know there's a lot of vaccine out there. There are pharmacies where you can get your vaccine, your doctor's office. And so everybody should be able to find a vaccine. And we're watching what's happening around the world and here in Maryland. And one of the things that it's a very, very sad moment for us this past week because we passed our 10,000th death related to COVID since this all began here in Maryland. The 10,000th Marylander who passed away from COVID disease directly. And that doesn't even include the people who may have had COVID but had other things, but the COVID made their other problems worse, and they may have died and not been called deaths related to COVID. But if it hadn't been for COVID, they would not necessarily have died. Right. And this is it's a sad moment for all of us, really, because now deaths due to COVID are essentially, they're not 100% preventable, but we know we can prevent a lot of those deaths moving forward. So all of us are going out and doing what we can to talk to people, to let them know that we don't have to hit 10,001 or 10,020 or 11,000 or 15,000. We have the ability to stop this. And that really requires that we do all the things that we've been talking about. I know everybody's tired of this. I really, believe me, I know how tired people are of this. But the good news is that if we can get people vaccinated, the people who are not vaccinated, if we can get them vaccinated, if we can hang on through this next period and keep doing that sort of social distancing, facial coverings, hand and covering your sneeze and covering your cough. At some point, COVID may not go away completely, but we'll be able to manage COVID the same way we manage the flu, which is we'll be able to say, COVID, we know that you might be around, but you're not going to determine everything that we do. We're going to live our lives. We're going to do the things we love doing. We can't do that until we get a lot of people vaccinated, a lot more than who are vaccinated now, and get to the point where there are enough people vaccinated that COVID becomes something that, we will live with it like the flu.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question. I'm not sure if you can answer this question. I'm not sure if you have to answer fully, but is there some data that shows the age or the demographics of the people unvaccinated? Is it just older? Is it younger? Like, what are you seeing if you know?
Sure. Well, so let me just talk a little bit about that because I've got some data on that. But essentially, a couple of things. The first thing is, remember that our older Marylanders are the ones who were at greatest risk. And when COVID happened, they were the ones who were dying, and they were the ones who were getting, in the hospital. Yeah. And they were also the group that was both nationally here in Maryland vaccinated first, along with healthcare workers. So most of those folks are in fact vaccinated. The overwhelming majority of people 65 and older are vaccinated. And that's made a huge difference because right now, if you look at where we're seeing cases of COVID, it's primarily in younger people. It's in people under the age of 20. Remember also, obviously, our younger children can't get vaccinated because, as we already said, there's no vaccine available or approved for kids who are under the age of 12. But even so, mostly those kids tend to get a less severe disease, mostly. It doesn't mean that some of them don't get sick. And, we are waiting desperately for vaccine for younger kids. But in the meantime, it is absolutely true. They do tend to get disease that is easier to deal with, and in some cases may have very, very few symptoms. However, we're seeing a lot of people in the age of 19 to 50 or so who are not vaccinated. And that group is where we're really trying to make sure that we can talk to employers, talk to churches, talk to others. Adults who are under the age of 65 should, at this point, we would want them all to be vaccinated against COVID. And that's still a group where there's a lot of people who are not vaccinated yet.
Okay. And I don't think we touched on this, but can we touch on the boosters? Do you see that being required to be immune or to be more healthier in the future? Because we're not talking immunity, we're just talking.
Sure. So interestingly, this discussion was just playing out at the Food and Drug Administration today, where the Vaccine Advisory Committee was meeting to talk about boosters. And I don't want to get ahead because that recommendation is just that committee's recommendation. It is not the government's recommendation officially yet, and it is not Maryland's recommendation yet. But what that committee looked at was the data that have come out from Israel, from the companies themselves who are asking for this question of a booster. And here in Maryland, as you know, the third dose that the governor announced several weeks ago, that third dose is not really a booster. It's really a third dose for people who have immune diseases or immune conditions. It's to get them to be fully vaccinated because their immune systems are not working as well as other people's. So it's not really a booster the way we're talking about boosters with the general population.
Yeah.
Boosters for somebody who's fully vaccinated is really a way of sort of kickstarting the immune system a little bit more. And right now, the FDA panel made some recommendations today. You'll probably see those in the news. The state has not adopted any recommendations as yet regarding boosters, but the governor has, and you'll remember the governor just recently announced that nursing homes would be required to offer boosters to their older residents. And it looks as though, at least at the moment, the FDA is sort of moving in the same direction of seeing older Americans and people with immune problems as groups that really do need potentially to have boosters in order to stay healthy. That's where we are right now. But like everything else, we're watching the science and the data, and we'll continue to try to bring information to you and your viewers as this situation evolves.
Okay. Well, everybody's it's a typo at the bottom of the screen, but the top right-hand corner of the screen says the date and time for tomorrow's event, vaccination registration. Tomorrow, September 18th, not December, September 18th, which is tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Church of the Redeemed of the Lord. They're having vaccination registration. Come out 4321 Old York Road. It's in Baltimore. If you're just tuning in, you can come out. He'll have a lot of stuff going on. Prizes, back to school supplies, $25 gift cards while supplies last. So that means get there early, get there on time, and come out and get vaccinated, okay? Again, the address is scrolling at the bottom, 4321 Old York Road in Baltimore. Church of the Redeemed of the Lord. Pastor Dr. Jerome Stokes is the senior pastor and CEO. Dr. Mitchell has been on answering our questions about COVID-19, the vaccinations. We appreciate you so much. Appreciate you. And one more time, information in case anybody got on late. How can they find out more about vaccines? More answers, questions to get answered.
If you go to coronavirus.maryland.gov, that's our webpage. That'll take you to all the information, where to find vaccines, testing resources, what the tests are showing, all those other questions.
Okay. And do you want to give anybody your information? Do you have like a social page or anything? I'm not sure you're on Instagram or Facebook, but just in case, I wanted to give
Oh,
you
my
that
daughter
opportunity.
would be so happy to hear you say that because she knows I am not Instagram literate.
Okay.
But what I will say is anybody who needs to find me, I'm at cliff.mitchell@maryland.gov. You spell out
Okay.
Maryland, and it's cliff.mitchell@maryland.gov. And really, I can't thank you and the bishop and the church enough. This is really important. I know how much this has hurt your community and all communities across Maryland. But it's really, really, it's really nice to see how people are coming together to help beat this thing.
Exactly. Again, tomorrow, 11 to 1, vaccination registration, 4321 Old York Road, Church of the Redeemed of the Lord. Thank you so much, Dr. Mitchell. Thank you so much to the church. And once again, they're having events throughout the week. Tuesday, they have small group deep dives. That's at 7 p.m. Wednesday, midweek worship services at 7 p.m. via a live stream, Facebook, YouTube. And then in person worship Sundays at 10 a.m. Registration is required for that. And if you need more details about us, Church of the Redeemed of the Lord, you can go to crlministries.com. And if you need more information about coronavirus, you can go to coronavirus.baltimorecity.gov. Again, thank you, Dr. Mitchell, for being on, answering some tough questions or questions that a lot of people probably have,
Sure.
just looking at social media and not listening to the facts. So that's what we want to do. We want to spread the facts, get educated, get vaccinated, and come out tomorrow, 11 to 1 p.m. It's right there at the top of the screen. It's a vaccination registration. And yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much,
so
Angel.
much.
Thank you so much to
Thank
your viewers,
you.
and best wishes to all of you. Be safe and be healthy and have a great weekend.
Exactly. You do the same.